Everybody likes to sound intelligent, whether when we speak or when we play the piano. Imagine if I talk to you in this tone and I'm not taking any breaks and really talking with a monotone tone. It's so hard to do that. You would probably already switch to some other video to watch. Thank you so much for not doing that. So we need to find a way to play with interesting character, right, with good phrasing. And we need to find the way to play like it's somewhat a story. So where we play or read sentence after sentence after sentence. And we need to be able to pay attention to those punctuation marks such as comma and period. It's very similar to the way we would read a book, for example. So if I read something like that, when Liz played the piano, ladies flung the Jews on the stage instead of bouquets, they shrieked in ecstasy and sometimes fainted. Right? I didn't understand anything actually. I know that context was somewhat interesting, but if I would put more effort into my reading, it will sound completely different. When Liszt played the piano, ladies flung their jewels on the stage instead of bouquets. They shrieked in ecstasy and sometimes fainted. You see, I took time in between certain words, right? I took time in between the sentences, and it immediately, I hope, made my reading a little bit more interesting. Very similar, we have to be able to do that at the piano. So what I have here is a couple of examples. Let's start with Enrique Granados and this beautiful waltz lento, a very famous piece. So to my luck, I have those phrasings actually marked here in the score. And normally they marked by this long curved line that looks like a long slur, but this is a phrasing marking. So I see that in this first section, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 phrases. So if I ignore those markings, this is how it will sound. It sounds okay just because it's a gorgeous piece of music, right? But I could play it much better. That's here. So what I want you to understand that in order for us to build a phrase, we need to think about three things: is beginning, development, and the end. Obviously, all the phrases have a beginning, right? And when it begins, I can never play it too loud, right? So it really, I need to start from the silence, from nowhere. Then what I immediately need to start thinking about is how I'm going to develop. So if I do maybe a slight crescendo and really create that desire to move forward, that will, be considered as my development of the phrase. And then the ending of the phrase, right? So in this particular case, if you look into the editorial markings, so perhaps these are actually markings of Enrique Granados himself, you see this crescendo to the very end of the phrase. Actually, this is quite unusual. In more simple cases, you have beginning, development, and then the ending. So at the end of the phrase, it's always, all the time, we play a little bit softer. This is quite an unusual phrase in terms of this kind of dynamics, but it takes place to be too. Let me show you something that would probably be a little bit more traditional. So here's our beloved sonata in C major by Mozart, K545. So 2-bar phrase. Short phrase, right? So if I play a little bit slower, I begin my phrase, I develop, and then I finish, right? So it goes hand in hand in how you're going to play your dynamic. Next phrase, very similar, begin, develop, is more typical phrase. The next phrase actually is a long phrase. 4-bar. One of the best advices I received in terms of phrasing was to sing the phrase in order to understand the contour, right? In order to understand, how do I begin? Where do I gravitate, right? To which point where I develop my phrase, and then how do I finish the phrase? So, for example, with Mozart, if I sing, right? So my voice already directs me. Obviously, everybody's level of musicality is different, and you might not know where to gravitate, for example, first. But I guarantee you, if you sing it several times and you will be able to sort of experiment, you will start hearing what sounds most effective, what sounds like I am creating that sentence, the unit, right? And then, very important to understand that the phrases, you need to finish every phrase and then start a new phrase, a new phrase. And it's very typical for classical music, for example, to have short, and then long phrase. For example, 2 bars, 2 bars, 4 bars, like in the simple minuet. One phrase, another phrase, and then 4 bar. Again, one phrase, 2 bars. Another 2 bars, and then long phrase again. Exploring your phrasing in the pieces that you're working on is actually very fascinating. And it puts you in that mood of looking at the music and looking at the piece that you're playing as a story. So you are going to hopefully be able to explore how the story begins, what happens next, and how it continues, how it develops, and how this is so basically how the story is organized through those sentences. Hopefully, this will motivate you to look into the phrasing in the pieces that you are playing and literally trying to see your piece as a story. How does it start? Where does it go? How does it develop? What are my characters? Maybe it will open a whole new world of possibilities for you to be able to be more expressive and also more effective communicator, right? Take time, that's general advice. And also look into each phrase separately and see where does it start, how does it develop, and how do I end my phrase, right? And then a little advice for all of you, finish every phrase. Thank you for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.